Welcome to Pushing the Envelope, Canada's unfiltered voice in construction. Real conversations, smart insights from the people building our world. Brought to you by Bothwell Accurate.
So today we're talking about something you really can't fake, and it's doing real work and building real things and what that does to who you are. So I thought it'd be great if we could first go around and just say who you are, and when someone asks you what do you actually say? Sean, do you want to start with you?
I guess I'm known as being the no way guy.
Yeah.
My real name's Sean. Um, I guess when people ask me what I do, I say social media.
Hmm.
Living our best life now. It's pretty surreal to what I used to do to what we're doing now. Yeah, social media is what we're doing now is all we do. So.
Awesome. George?
I'm an entrepreneur at heart. Own Bothwell now for going on to be 20 years. Um, my philosophy is to take care of your people and your people will take care of you. I truly enjoy what I do. I enjoy my people. I love venturing outside of business, which is why we got into Lemons Headers and why we started to talk to you, Sean. I'm a car fanatic, not a car mechanic, but a car fanatic. I certainly love cars, but I couldn't put one together if my life depended on it. I have a really nice taste for good wine, so I love to do that, and some scotch, cigars. So I try to round myself out outside of business, but my true passion is my companies. And I love doing that, but meeting individuals like you two that have joined us today brings me a lot of joy, a lot of happiness. So welcome.
Yeah. Chuck?
Well, this is an interesting one. A question that I haven't really been asked before, but I think if I had to categorize myself, I would say I'm a team builder,
Mm.
more than anything else. I've been in so many different industries. They have a lot in common uh, in terms of how passionate the people are in the business, right? So I started off as a golf professional. Uh, I transferred from golf into development, and then development into this Lemons Headers, basically performance automotive. In each one of those categories, there is a real subculture of passion, right? When you're building somebody's house, it's the biggest investment that they ever make. And they're very passionate about everything from their toilet roll holder, to their front door, right? When someone's building a car like Sean, when he was building the Cruvel, there's 1,000 components in it. He's passionate about every single one of them. If one of those things goes wrong, it's heartbreaking, and you have to deal with a team in order to get that done properly. And in golf, your ego is attached to everything you do, and so people are very passionate about how they look. So in each of those cases, you're dealing with very passionate people and a whole team of people to bring them together to get to where you want to be. So team building, I think, is likely my strength.
Yep, definitely. You're only as good as the people you surround yourself with. But it's interesting because it seems like nobody really ends up here by accident, and there's always kind of like an interesting story about how we got to where we are. And Sean, I know you're doing social media now, kind of full time, and that was probably a big change for you. But that's not your background, right? Your background is as a welder, correct?
Yeah, so my background is welding, and to say it didn't happen, it completely happened by accident what we're what we're doing now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I basically started welding straight out of high school. I wasn't gonna pass high school, and I went and talked to my shop teacher, and he kind of told me, I said I need this many credits to pass, and he's like, well, build something. He's like, do something for your grade 12 welding project, do something big. And so it's kind of a funny story. I was doing job shadowing with a welder at the time, and me and him kind of came up with the idea of building a potato gun. And
Fun.
so we built this 7 foot long basically potato cannon, and I handed that in, and I got pipe fitting credits, I got drafting credit, like I got all the credits that I needed to pass high school, and I was like, like working with this old time welder, it really I started to love it. So I straight out of high school, like I think it was 2 weeks out of high school, I was in a welding shop welding and started my apprenticeship, and was welding up until basically 4 years ago when we started doing social media full time. And the social media stuff came along with the welding. Like I started doing social media with my welding shop to get more business and stuff
Mhm.
like that, because I mean, that's how the times were going. You had to be on social media to get the word out there. And I was I was busy, but I wanted more. So we started showing some of the stuff we were building. And when you're a small shop out in the country and you get a lot of just random projects brought to you, and we started building some rocket stoves for a few different guys, and then I built this aluminum washer fluid tank for Peterbilt's because they have a plastic one in them, and that just absolutely took off. Like those videos did great, and we got a huge following on our welding page.
Mhm.
And then I threw in a what no way here and there, and they started blowing up. So then we started the what no way page, and I was juggling both. And at one point, it was just the business was starting to suffer a little bit because I was trying to get the social media stuff, and my wife finally said, like, you need to choose one and like go full in on it. And so I took the risk and basically shut down the welding shop and pulled the Chevelle into the shop, and that was our first YouTube build. And yeah, it's we've been doing it for 3.5, 4 years now.
Wow. Yeah, it kind of seems like that's always what happens is you start, it's like you didn't really choose the trade kind of chose you, and that sounds like what happened there, and then it kind of morphed and grew as you did. And George, do you find you had a similar experience of like
Um,
coming into the construction world? I know you had a background in it.
yeah, no, I started off with out of school in electrical distribution for a family business. And I'll say I bore my teeth there, trying to learn business in general, how to deal with people. And I think the best part of the whole endeavor was my dad put me into sales. So he gave me the gift of gab. And I'll never forget one of the phrases he used with me. He says, George, you got to be a man of 1,000 faces and 1,000 hats when you're in sales.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's very true. You have to talk to your audience. And if you learn how to do that and do it well, then you will do very well yourself. Unfortunately, it was a situation where I could talk to the exterior part of my life, but not the interior. Had some difficulties with my own family, and so I left my father's business when I turned 50, and was very fortunate during my endeavors to find another business to purchase. I found Bothwell, and didn't know anything about roofing at the time, which was what Bothwell was known for. And everybody in the industry told me there was no way I was going to make it, that you can't take an outsider and become an insider. And I just said to them, I believe in myself, number one. I believe that I bought a company that has a good team, number two. And I believe I'm a good businessman. So I never had a problem in thinking that I would succeed. And I'm happy to say that through my endeavors, I have succeeded. I may not be, a Bill Gates, but I am certainly comfortable in what I do. I'm very comfortable within my own skin, and I'm very proud of the people that we have grown with within the organization and outside the organization. And I think it's done a lot for my personality. I've grown a lot over the years, and I think I've become far more able to listen to those around me rather than to be a severe dictator. Um, throughout my career. So now, and you know, I'll look at Chuck is a perfect example. I was fortunate enough to bring him into the organization, and he may want to tell you something differently, but I try to stay out of his hair, let him do exactly what he knows what to do best, let him grow. And I find the more I do that in business and just let people grow within their own industry and their own skins, things work out pretty damn well. So in a nutshell, I have grown myself because of people that are around me, and I've enjoyed it thoroughly.
I think that kind of leads into what I was going to ask next with you. Trusting the people that you have hired and brought onto your team is the accountability side with it. And I think that's probably a shared experience between all of you guys. Sean, whether it's you making that decision to fully dive into the social media and just being accountable for yourself and your family. And then Chuck, for you as well. And of course, George, you already spoke to that. Do you agree with that, Chuck?
Well, it's interesting because I just heard something out of George that I hadn't heard before. So, but the 50 years old and going out and starting into a business that he knew nothing about. So, I'll share with you on this particular podcast. I've known George since 2009, and George was a client of mine at Muskoka Bay Club. I was the director of this resort. And George stood out as somebody that really treated everybody really well. I had a massive head injury in 2016, which essentially stopped me from working for 7 years. George was one of the few people in that 7-year process that would text me every 35, 45 days and just ask me how I was doing. I get a little bit emotional talking about this. After my 6-year recovery, George called me up and said, are you ready to go back to work? And I said, I think so. And he said, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm not sure. I was 50 years old. So to tie into George's story, he had me come over to his cottage and he said, well, I met this nice family and the owner of this company has got Parkinson's and they need some help. Would you be interested in joining my team? And I said, what is it? And he said, it's performance race headers. And I said, George, you got the wrong guy. That was my answer. You got the wrong guy. I know nothing about automotive. And he said to me, you're good at building teams. People follow you. Just go down there and take a look at it. And I said, no. And he called me back like 30 days later and he said, honestly, just sit in on a meeting. And I said, okay, I'll sit in on a meeting. And in the middle of that meeting, he said, Chuck's going to fly down to California next week and take a look at the operation, which he didn't tell me ahead of time. and I didn't want to say anything in the meeting, so I just said, okay. And he sent me a set of plane tickets and off I went the next week. I went down and met everybody down there and saw the kind of situation that they were in. The product was wonderful. They all cared so much about it and they were scared. And I came back and I said, okay, I'll try it out. All right. And to George's kind of story about a leap at 50 and, trying something new and kind of expanding on what you know, I can kind of now I can see what he was doing and I'm kind of living it out underneath him. So, and what got me into this business, quite honestly, is how George treated people with his kind of authentic, caring attitude that he had.
And
Yeah,
now, like Sean, I say, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, don't let your head get too big here. Yeah.
I'll keep it down to size. But Sean, you have a connection to Lemons Headers as well, and you're big into the automobile space. Do you want to speak a little bit to that and what your kind of hobbies are as well?
When I started building my Chevelle and so it like we were the whole car came up, like the plan of the car was in a hotel room in Vegas at SEMA. Me and my buddy were there and I seen one of my other buddies at SEMA and I was like, wow, like he's got a big YouTube channel. I was like, how do I get on YouTube. And he's like, you got a big enough following. He's like, build something unique. And I was like, well, I got this 4-door Chevelle. So me and Rob went back to the hotel, and we were up until about 1 in the morning thinking about what we should do with this car. But the whole conversation started in the ProCharger booth, and one of the salesmen there was eavesdropping and heard that I was building this car, and he wanted to be a part of it. So we came up with this whole idea of this car, and we got working on it, and then I got looking at the engine that I got, and I needed a specific set of headers for it, for what this engine was. And so I started making some phone calls, and a buddy of mine, Jim Howe, he he suggested Lemons. He said, if you're building this car, you need to have the best on your car. And so I got on the website, and I'm looking at the headers, and I'm like, oh man, like I'm used to like $200 set of headers, right? That fall apart after 20K down the road. So I messaged Lemons and to get a price and stuff and see if they wanted to work with me, and they came back, and they're just awesome to work with, and like the customer service was just bar none. And I base everything that we do, we base on customer service. Like I don't care if you have the best product in the world, if your customer service sucks, I ain't dealing with you. I'll pay extra to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I think
And
we've all. Oh, go ahead. I was gonna say, I think
yeah,
we've all been to like a restaurant where the food's incredible, but the service is so horrible. We will write it off immediately, right? The customer
yeah,
service
like
is
we
definitely a
had
key component.
like a welding company, or like a welding supply company,
Mhm.
and I took my kid in there, and we were looking at some stuff, and my kid got more attention than I did. Like one of the salesmen showing him helmets and different stuff like that. My kid left there with just as happy as could be. And I texted the owner, and I was like, you got all my business. I said, you made my kid happy, you got all my business. I said, I don't get that customer service when I go to this welding supply and stuff like that. So we base everything off customer service, and Lemons is top notch in that. And any issues that we did have, not like we had some fitment issues that were on me because I'm an idiot, but they tried to remedy it, and it turned out it was my problem, not theirs. But yeah, it's just, so that's kind of how we got in touch with Lemons.
January 15th, 2024 is when you sent the email to us, right? And so we get emails all the time. This goes back to character and authenticity, right? So we get emails all the time. People, whether they're building a race car for their, just they're going to race within their state, or whether they've got 20 million followers on social media or whatnot. And I will say this: the email that Sean sent to us, it was incredibly humble. He didn't ask for anything for free, right? He explained kind of who he was and what he was doing. He talked about how his Jim Howe, is it?
Yeah.
How he recommended our headers to us. And at the end of it, he put, I will buy these headers, even if you don't want to work with us, because you guys are so well respected, in his email. Right. And that's what started the conversation. He was saying, I really want your product. I don't necessarily want it for free, but if you want to work together, we'll do it. And that was different than most of the other requests that we get from other people. So it is a testament to your kind of character and how you put together the first email to us.
Yeah, I think authenticity is something that I can feel is coming across with all of you guys. And authenticity comes in all forms, whether it's with a relationship with somebody that you want to work with, or it's a company that you're growing. I think people, as much as people want to, showboat and say like, oh, I do this, like I think people are pretty quick to catch on the bullshit of if somebody means what they say and who they are as a person. I think a lot of our generation has turned into like instant gratification and wanting quick success overnight, and they see these whether it's social media or that kind of expedites this. But I think having the trades like getting into a trade really forces you to think long term, and building those skills and something that you can be happy with, and be really I guess self-fulfilled over a long term. But like, yeah, I think we all know that shortcuts always come back to cost more in the long run, right? So I don't know how we teach that, or how we get that across.
Yeah, like my kids look at what we did and how quick our success was with it.
Mhm.
And I mean, they immediately like, I want to be a YouTuber. I want to do this. And I was like, you can do that, but you need to have something behind you. I have a welding ticket. I have everything in my welding shop
Mhm.
from before, that if all this social media goes away, I can go back to, like, I have a backup plan. And that's what I'm trying to say to them. And I've said to lots of kids that have come up to it, I'm like, you got to have a backup plan. And there's always a need for trades, but which is kind of funny. Like when I talked to my dad when I was younger, and I was like, Dad, I want to be a mechanic like you. And he's like, don't be stupid. He's like, my hearing is shot, my knees hurt, my back hurts. Like he was trying everything he could to for me not to be a mechanic and feel how he feels now. So I went and became a welder, and I feel worse than he did.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, especially like you mentioned, growing up in being out in the country, or having, like a small town where it's easier to kind of get access to the trades or getting into a shop. But I think one of the issues is that in these large cities, like we're located in Toronto and in BC, and that are developing so fast, and there's quite a demand for people in the trades, and it seems like we're struggling. Um, I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on like what you guys think needs to change to kind of bring those people in and have the same mindset that Sean's, you're teaching your kids.
I think they probably have one of the toughest generations, because and it's due to what they're exposed to at such a young age, versus what we all were, right? So, they see, the TikToks and the social media, and they see all this success, and they see, you know, a group of guys blowing stuff up in their backyard and making millions of dollars doing it, for just having fun and whatnot. And you get these very high expectations, of kind of where they're going to be early, that quick shot to success thing. Whereas our generation would have an expectation coming out of high school that you're either going to go to college, university, or into a trade, right? And then you're going to work 4 more years hard at that in order to get into the workforce. So you get into the workforce at 24, 25, and then you might have the same disappointment at 29, that you're not sure if what you're doing is right, that I think our kids are having at 18, right? And you've got we had a decade of life to kind of prepare us for that, as opposed to the kids these days. But to circle back on the importance of the trades, and where people get into the trades, I do think that it's, I know that Sean was talking about his father saying, don't become a mechanic. I said to my son, don't become a golf pro. He's a golf pro now, by the way. I think there's a very, the trades is a very, kind of family and culturally oriented business, right? And it's, in the past kind of 20 years, it's been kind of frowned upon versus like a higher educational, kind of endeavor, right? But if you look at the long run of a trade, look at a tradesman when they're 55, 60 years old, and the accomplishments that they have, and the gratification in their career, and that kind of their self, uh, fulfillment. I think the trades offer a hell of a lot more than a lot of the kind of pencil pushing desk jobs.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a challenge that everybody kind of goes through, but if we can take that back to you guys, just building over your career, whether you started it at 50 or you fell into welding, and then now it seems like you seemingly fell into like social media, Sean. You just kind of gotta roll with the punches, and grind, and put your head down, and be dedicated to something. And you guys are three perfect examples of how success can work in very different ways in very different industries. Doesn't necessarily matter what you do, it just matters about, going out and getting after it.
100%.
Yeah, like when I started doing social media, like I was one of them guys that looked at like other social media people and I was like, oh, like they got it so easy. And now I'm doing it and I work harder than I did when I had my welding shop. Like it's it was very humbling when I started doing it and I was like, holy crap, like I'm putting in more hours in the shop to build this stuff for the channel. And then
Mm.
I like we did it so I was home more, but I was seeing my kids less because I was in the shop longer and then I come up to the house, I get a couple hours with them, they go to bed, and then I was on the computer for an hour or till 1 in the morning editing video because I had to learn all that because I'm computer illiterate. So learn the amount of learning I had to like jump in and do. But yeah, it's hard work is not it it all comes down to putting in hard work. Like you aren't gonna get anywhere being lazy. You have to work your ass off.
Hmm.
I think one of the, just to kind of tie on to that, one of the things that people don't realize about Sean is the amount of kind of self-starterness is involved in what he does. You know, like I watch his videos and whatnot because at this point, you know, I'm just interested in Sean's life, right? Like we talk 2 or 3 times a week, generally speaking, or at least text back and forth. And half the time it's just like, you know, funny little gifs and whatever. We're making fun of somebody. And but you look what he's working on right now. He's working on uh this truck, Frank, right?
Frank, yeah.
And you know, he releases this video like a week and a half ago saying, you know, I'm working on Frank. We had a text exchange back and forth about the engine he's putting into it and whether or not Lemons could figure something out. We've got a really cool project that we're working on that I think we're going to tie him into with this. But you know, he's literally pulling Frank out of the yard. It's been out there for God knows how many years. Doesn't know if it's going to start or anything like that. 7 days later, he's doing another video. There's no body on Frank. You know, he's pulling out a pipe bender to do a roll cage. You know, like these, like each one of these things takes a lot of time, effort, planning, and then on top of that, he's creating a video to share it to the rest of the world. And 7 days has gone by. You know,
Yeah.
anybody else on a project car, that you know, that's a 3 month kind of process that he's done in 7 days, videotaped it, documented it, put it out, and he's probably, you know, 3 steps down the road already. You know,
No.
and he's not afraid to make mistakes. Like you know, like your roll bar didn't turn out exactly the way you wanted it to. But
Yeah.
he's not afraid to make mistakes and document it and tell people so that like, and that goes back to that kind of authenticity of what he does. That's why people like it, right? He could have done it 3 different times so it was perfect and then made himself look good on the video, but he didn't, right?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and I think that goes back to building a reputation over time and building like just building who you are as a person and as a company and how you treat your employees, whether it be 11 or 900 or, Sean, it's just you expressing yourself to like your social media following. I think that's where the importance is, right? Is you're building that authenticity, you're building that relationship, um, you're gaining that confidence as well as having humility and having to be able to say like, hey, I made a mistake here. Hey, I tried this, that didn't work, but guess what? I'm gonna own up to it. I'm gonna say like, yeah, you know what? And that's part of this entire journey for everyone. And I think that gets you a lot farther than just trying to paint a rainbow and sunshine on everything and call it a day. Because truth always comes out, eh?
Yeah, like when
Every,
I had my welding shop, it was like I wouldn't put things out of my shop that weren't good enough for me. Like if I
Mm,
wasn't gonna if I would go to a shop and have something done and be upset with it, it ain't going out of my shop. And like there was several times I went out to jobs and like starting out it was because of who I trained under. like I was getting work because of him, and he was recommending me and the work that I do, but it was like you can always judge your work by how many callbacks you get. And we were getting customers call us back to repair other people's stuff. And I absolutely love doing it. Like I love fixing other people's garbage. That was something I love to do. But yeah, I remember I got called out to one job, and I get out there and it's a big crack and a big piece of machinery, and I didn't have an air compressor on my truck, and so I phoned the welder that recommended me go out and do this job, and I was like, you do this stuff all the time, like how do you normally attack this? I know you don't have an air arc on your truck. And he's like, oh, I just grind it out best I can and throw a weld in. And I was like, well, that's not the right way to do it. So I went and talked to the boss of the job, and I said, hey, do you have an air compressor on site? And he's like, I do. And so he pulled the job over there, and I got out my air arc, and I was there for 8 hours gouging on this piece of equipment. And he came over and he's like, man, like this is you're the first welder I've had out here to do this properly and not just put a band-aid on. And that
Mhm.
crack didn't break, like it had been repaired several times before, and finally it was fixed properly. And that kept, I mean, just doing that properly the first time, they call that kept me busy for a whole summer being out at that gravel pit. Like 2, 3 days a week, I was out there fixing cracks and fixing stuff because they knew I was going to do it right. And that's like you have to get that reputation and do things you can't shortcut stuff. Like the quality of some of the big companies is just terrible because they're just pumping out so much stuff. And you get a smaller company that they might not do the volume, but the quality is top notch. You get better service, and like, yeah, I would much rather deal with a small company than massive company.
It's pride of work. And you're 100% right.
Yeah.
When BA was a smaller company, it was much easier to control. You had a tighter control on everything that happened. And that sense of pride in what you created got you more respect than just being there because they wanted you to be there. And,
Yeah.
when we talk today, and I'm looking at you, both of you, it's a matter of if not only do you have passion for what you do, but you have pride in what you do. And when you have those two, it creates respect for you in the industry. And, as you said earlier, Sean, that if you don't get that from your vendor, you're going to go elsewhere, even if it costs you more money. But you want something that is good, something that you know that if something goes wrong, he's got your back. And, one of the things I try very hard with my own firm is that if we have created a problem, then it's up to us to go back and fix it and without grumbling.
Yeah.
If we screw it up, you got to take it on the chin, go back and do it. And I'm very proud to say to any of my clients, we have never let you down. We're not perfect. We do things wrong certain times. We may miss things, maybe due to engineering or whatever it may be. But if it's our fault, we're going to go back and fix it because
Yeah.
I do have a pride in everything we do. And I try to tell my staff, don't take shortcuts. Just take it on the chin, do it right, do it once. And that's what gets us return business over and over and over again, because they know I'm not going to run from a problem.
Absolutely. Well, thanks guys for taking the time to kind of sit down and chat and be so honest and candid about your guys' experience. If you were to leave, before we say goodbye, just a quick note. If you guys have any like one piece of advice that you'd give to maybe this younger generations, or maybe somebody that's on the fence about going into just kind of taking a dive into whatever it is, whether it be a trade or starting a business or changing over to social media, like what advice would you give them?
I'll give one and then the other two can say something. Don't live
Okay,
your life in fear. If you see an
great one.
opportunity, grab it.
I love that
Even
one.
if it fails, grab it.
Great, thanks
Well, you
George.
stole mine.
Oh,
I was thinking the same thing. Like you can't be afraid. You can't be afraid to fail.
Yeah. Absolutely.
forward. Like
Mm.
you never, like you're not winning or losing. You're either winning or you're learning. That's I kind of learned that like since we started drag racing. Like, yeah, you might lose the race, but you better have learned why, and you fail forward. That's the best thing that has come to me is if something doesn't work out for you, figure out why it didn't work out and like make it better.
Well,
Awesome.
listen, I'll tie on to that. My favorite quote from one of my favorite people is Winston Churchill. He said, "Success isn't final, failure isn't fatal. It's the courage to get up and try that counts."
All very great sentiments and all very true.
There you go.
I thought you
Yeah.
were gonna say something like "what in a way" or "fuck's sake." I thought I was your favorite.
Yeah.
Thanks, gentlemen. It's great seeing you all. And Haley,
Yeah,
thank you very
great to
much.
see you. Yeah,
No, it's
you're
good
welcome.
seeing you guys.
Okay,
Great seeing
take
everybody.
care.
Thanks.
Take care now.
Bye.
Welcome to Pushing the Envelope, Canada's unfiltered voice in construction. Real conversations, smart insights from the people building our world. Brought to you by Bothwell Accurate.